Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mess. So, taking a fun and exciting video for you guys today because Super ZSNES has updated again to 0.2 status, bringing in some new features, some new improvements to games, some enhancements as you're seeing here with Chrono Trigger, as well as support for MSU1 enhancements. And that is going to be a very fun thing because those are some of my favorite Super Nintendo games to play at this point in time. And honestly, you guys have all been excited to see a new Super Nintendo emulator hit the market, even if obviously it's free, and I just use market as the term to kind of qualify something new coming out. And Super ZSNES has been iterating quickly and giving us better and better versions of its own Super Nintendo emulation. And even though we already have amazing Super Nintendo emulators out there, it's always fun to get a new one, and with the overall design philosophy here, I think it's going to be a great tool set for modders to go ahead and kind of improve on games in the future. But I'm going to go over some game samples, some improvements, and kind of give you guys an idea of exactly everything that is new in Super ZSNES as of basically 12 hours ago. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, got a Patreon link down below as well. And big credit to the developers of Chrono Trigger for actually letting you interact with a cat there. Kinda wish there was a pet button, but otherwise being able to click on him and have him jump up and meow, 10 out of 10 fun. And as you'll see here, Chrono Trigger is one of the new games that comes with an entire enhancement pack, both to the visuals and to the audio. And I totally get it, some people absolutely love this look and some people don't like it whatsoever. The good thing is it's entirely optional, and turning it on or off takes about 2 seconds and a couple mouse clicks, which is always going to be a nice time. And honestly, at least here in Chrono Trigger, outside of some of the character portraits, I actually think it has a very nice kind of painterly look to it, almost like a watercolor painting done on construction paper. I get it's not the original artist's intent, but honestly, at this point in time, all options are good options if you enjoy them, and if you don't have to utilize them whatsoever. So you'll see here there is an entire latest release note category here, and I'm just going to go over some of the most top note things to give you guys an idea of what's actually going to be going on under the hood with Super ZSNES. And I really appreciate the development team here gives you guys these comprehensive breadcrumb notes so you can see everything that happened in each individual update, so you are clear exactly what you're getting, what is changing, what's been improved, and what's been added since the last time you played around with it. So right off the top here, the top note is revamp some of the GPU generation code to fix sprite priority issues. So basically it's going to give you better graphical rendering because there were still a few bugs and glitches in there. And again, I can't stress enough, this is still completely work in progress development. So as far as the Chrono Trigger enhancement pack, you'll see here, if you hit escape, you can turn them on, you can turn them off. You can make this look every bit as good as any other Super Nintendo emulator when it comes to making Chrono Trigger look like a 16-bit game. And I know there's been a little bit of a misnomer in the comments thinking that these effects are basically forced on you by default when you load up the ROM. Yes, they are on, but you can turn them off, so it really is kind of a subjective thing. If you want to use them, you can. If you don't want to use them, totally fine as well. And don't forget, Super ZSNES is going to be available to make these packs yourself. So if you think about all the fun fan developers and modders out there, I think they're going to be doing a lot of fun things in the future. And it is instantaneous, it doesn't require a reload of the ROM, so you can kind of play around with the enhanced list and see exactly what is going to be going on under the hood. And because some of the audio enhancements are really nice, maybe that's something you want to run without any of the visual enhancements that you're seeing here. Now going back to the list, you're going to see it fixed subscreen color window transparency region. That doesn't mean a lot, but you'll see here, it fixed some of the dark areas in a certain game. A lot of these notes aren't the most exciting things in the world until you understand how they function. You're also going to have integer scale window modes as well. That way basically you're keeping the constraints on the X and Y axis of the image working correctly. Bilinear filtering is also added in. It's on by default, but again, like everything, you can toggle it on or off. And of course, you're going to get MSU1 support so long as you set the folder up correctly, and that might be my favorite update for this version. If you're not familiar with what MSU1 is, you can have full motion video, but you can also have new soundtracks. So go ahead and listen to an MSU1 soundtrack sample, and I'll be right back with more. It's a completely different vibe for Super Ghouls and Ghosts, but MSU1 enhancements, just like the enhancements in Super ZSNES, are completely optional. If you want to use them, you totally can. If you don't want to use them, you can just treat this as a Super Nintendo emulator. And even though this game isn't mentioned anywhere in the notes, I wanted to take a look at Pocky and Rocky, just because it is one of my favorite Super Nintendo games of all time, and it is something that I like to test just to see how the overall performance is going. Because a lot of times if a game isn't in the notes, you're not quite sure what it's doing. Now, not every single enhancement chip from the Super Nintendo is yet in Super ZSNES, so I'm really just testing some games that don't utilize the enhancement chips, because if they don't have it in the code, it really isn't going to do much. But I know the Super ZSNES team has mentioned that enhancement chips are definitely on the roadmap. And if you're not aware what those are, think Super FX, think Super FX 2, think SA1, different chips that would aid in having better graphics, data decompression, stuff like that, to basically give you those games that looked way better than the base Super Nintendo games did when the console first launched. And honestly, I don't think any other system ever got so many enhancements as Super Nintendo did, even if most people didn't realize it. Maybe the PC Engine, with all of the different upgrade cards and different actual add-ons, that could kind of rival Super Nintendo, but they always made it known on the PC Engine side of things that you were upgrading your system to the Super CD-ROM 2 or 3 card, where on the Super Nintendo you didn't always know that that cartridge might have a specialized chip in it doing something. They always advertised the Super FX chip, but otherwise stuff like the SA1 never really got mentioned on the box, at least as far as I can remember. But as far as playing Pocky and Rocky, it's responsive, there's no latency to be concerned about in the controls, and it looks absolutely stunning here being played in Super ZSNES. And if you've never played Pocky and Rocky before, I can't recommend it enough. Straight up one of my top 10 Super Nintendo games of all time. But you leave me a comment down below and you tell me what's the #1 game on your Super Nintendo list, because I really would be curious. But again, as far as the emulation is concerned here, no notes, and that's always going to be a good thing when it comes to testing games. Now going back to the list, you're going to see again, we have that MSU1 support, and that's going to be a very fun time because there's a lot of different games that support it. But another one of my favorite games to test that I've seen in emulation sometimes get tripped up a long time ago is something like Castlevania Dracula X, specifically with that fire waving pattern in the background of the first stage. And if you've heard that this game is not a fun time, take it from me. No, it is not Rondo of Blood, because it gets unfairly compared to Rondo of Blood. People think the game is a lot worse than it truly is. It is a B-tier Castlevania, but considering how incredible the A-tier games are, a B-tier Castlevania is still better than probably like 90% of the other action platformers out there on the Super Nintendo. And I like to really check this one because, like I said, some of the effects here can be absolutely tripped up if the emulation isn't doing what it needs to do. And even though Super Nintendo emulation has been kind of a quote-unquote solved problem for the longest time, it still is worth checking some of these things out just to see, because don't forget, the Super Nintendo library is massive, so it's going to take a lot of community effort to play through a lot of these games to find out where there might be bugs or issues, so that the Super ZSNES dev team can get those issues resolved in more future versions. And like I said one more time, if you've never played this game before because you heard it wasn't good, just give it a shot, maybe this weekend or maybe next week. All you have to lose is time. All you have to gain is an amazingly fun Castlevania game that just isn't as perfect as Rondo of Blood, which is kind of slightly based upon. Let's go into our next soundtrack sample, which is Chrono Trigger with the enhancements turned on, and I'll be right back to show you just a little bit more Super ZSNES. Chrono Trigger just has an absolutely 10 out of 10 soundtrack, and it sounds great coming out of Super ZSNES. And honestly, if you never played Chrono Trigger before and you even remotely like JRPGs, I would widely believe, at least in my own opinion, that it is the greatest 16-bit RPG game ever made, hands down. And again, on the MSU1 side of things, don't forget it's audio, but it's also video. If you haven't played around with seeing full motion video actually run on the Super Nintendo via emulation or even ROM cards, or on the Mr. FPGA side of things, FPGA code, it is absolutely a trippy experience. Like Super Nintendo actually got that CD add-on from Sony or Philips back in the day. It's basically a false reality, but it is a very fun reality that you can actually experience now, and it is a good time. But honestly, the Super ZSNES team have been killing it with these updates, and I'll definitely update you guys again when a new version comes out with fundamental changes. But leave me a comment down below and you tell me if you've been playing around with Super ZSNES or not, and do you use the graphical enhancements or not. I would be curious. But short of that, we're done. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.